Hello and welcome to a new episode of Million Dollar Media. I'm your host, Max Kellerhals, and today is going to be a very special episode because with me I have...
Josh Nicholson, that's me, hi.
And...
I'm Joelle.
Awesome! Alright, and today we are going to do a review of the Batman, but first, I have a very special, reaction thing for you guys to see, because I thought this is kind of in line with a bit of Batman. It is a new photo of Nicolas Cage as Dracula, and I thought it was...
I did just see this. He was talking about being Egghead in the next Batman movie, which would be incredible.
But here is the picture. I will post it up on my YouTube screen, but if you haven't seen this, this is hilarious. This is him as Dracula.
I have seen this.
Can you describe your reaction, Joelle?
That's a lot of red.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool.
It's a great suit.
It's a great suit, and I think the
wrong.
thing that's great about it is that this movie's not even about Dracula, it's about Renfield.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Nicolas Cage is just putting his all into...
Nick Cage is just doing side quests at this point.
So do you guys know about, not to talk about Nick Cage too much before we
Don't
get
worry,
into
don't
this,
worry.
But do you guys know Nick Cage's, philosophy?
No.
Which is basically, he will do most movies if he likes the script. He doesn't care about a paycheck or anything because he's so, celebrity, stardom. He has, a house and, can feed his family. Mm-hmm. And so...
Well, he still has
living the dream.
He had debt.
He did have debt. He doesn't
have
have debt anymore.
Not anymore because all those movies you talked about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But Nick Cage just does movies that he thinks are interesting, so he'll go from, Pig, which was a really serious drama that was really good, to, Willy's Wonderland or, Mom and Dad, which is an absolutely incredible movie.
I hated that movie.
It was so good.
I hated Mom and Dad so much.
It was such a fantastic movie. Are you telling me that R-rated Home Alone starring Nicolas Cage isn't an incredible concept? He smashes up a pool table with a sledgehammer while singing the Hokey Pokey.
Yep.
What is there about this movie that you could possibly not like?
That movie does have a really fun quote for me, where it's the sawzall.
Yeah, just Nick Cage being nuts for an hour and a half and getting beat up by his children.
And then...
Interesting.
And more.
Yeah.
I won't say what, but it is pretty funny.
It's a good...
I did not like the movie because of the editing style.
That is fair.
It really bothered me.
I liked the way that it looked, but I understand being turned off by that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think it's a taste.
It's very much a taste.
Anyways, enough about Nick Cage, even though he should play Egghead in the next Batman movie.
Yeah.
Because reviving classic 60s Batman villains is always a good choice.
Yeah, I would love to see that in the Harley Quinn show though.
That is true. Him voicing Egghead in the Harley Quinn show would be
That would be really cool. Alright, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I thought it was pretty funny, the picture.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So, okay, we're going to be talking about the Batman. So right now we're going to be talking about non-spoiler stuff. And then we're going to be moving into spoilers once I give the spoiler warning to all of you. So for non-spoilers, I want to start it off by saying I thought in this movie the acting, pretty much all around, was top-notch great.
Yeah.
I can't think of any performance that was phoned in, lame, or kind of just bad in general.
I wasn't a fan of the dude... trying to decide if this is a spoiler. The dude who has the really horrible thing happen to him.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
the cage?
yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I did not think that guy wasn't in the movie for very long, but I didn't think he did a very good job.
Yeah, that's fair. Mm-hmm.
I thought it was fine for what the role was.
Yeah.
I thought of the roles, that was the one where it was he's kind of playing up the, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Kind of cop.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the Colin Farrell as the Penguin also plays up the whole what do you mean? But he is absolutely incredible. And I'm so glad he's getting his own HBO series.
Oh, yeah.
Understandable. Oh, I was just gonna say that the opening scene also kind of felt a little hollow at points. It didn't quite make sense.
Oh, I love the opening.
Oh, just with that guy?
Which guy?
The
mayor?
Yeah.
Huh?
The mayor or
the other guy who's running for mayor, because
Huh? Oh, no, not that one. The second opening scene, I suppose.
Oh,
the one that isn't...
the ones with, the gangsters?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't find them?
Yeah.
I
don't...
What are you supposed to be?
Yeah. How is that...
They
really
felt
believable if they already like kind of knew about this as a threat.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh.
And like,
Like that, it just felt like it was supposed to be exposition when
Yeah.
it wasn't really needed based on the premise that was
And
already set up.
I
in the
wasn't
world.
a fan of how they did the makeup for those guys because they looked like the people from the end of Joker 2019. They looked like, I mean, they also looked like standard enemies from like the Arkham games.
They also kind of reminded me of like the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're not wrong, and that's the saddest part.
Well, I kind of understood it too, but I was also like, okay, that's weird. But I'm like, this is Gotham. There's a guy dressed up
Yeah.
as a bat.
You're right. You're right.
It's this idea of escalation where like, he's dressing up as a bat, we're gonna be Skeleton Gang.
Okay, but like, then they had the audacity to be like, what are you supposed to be?
Yeah.
That's fair.
We're the skeleton crew. What are you, man in a black suit?
With
That's fair.
pointed ears.
Yeah. But no
Alright.
bat nipples, so it's a bad movie.
Shut up.
Why are you like this?
No, I'm just
I'm
remarking.
trying to think this is going to be one of the most chaotic episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah,
No,
you
100%.
you invited the two of us, and like not any normal
I invited the
people.
gruesome twosome. Okay. Okay, so acting all around, I gotta give a big shout out to the main lead, Robert Pattinson as Batman. I really liked his interpretation of Batman.
Yeah, it was basically like, okay, I like the Twilight movies. I will say that. I
don't.
think that they're fun.
And
You
I've
can
never
actually
seen them.
listen to why I do not like the original Twilight movies if you go back and listen to episode 4 of $1 Million Media.
Okay, so anyway, I like the Twilight movies because they're really stupid fun. Except the second one, which is like genuinely unwatchable. But the rest of them are like dumb and entertaining.
That's fair.
And one of the things I loved about Robert Pattinson was that he was in those movies was that he was given this script for Edward and he read the character and without realizing that this was the intention, right? Like because it wasn't the intention. He was like, "Man, if I was this guy, I would probably hate myself." So he played up the degree to which Edward hated himself. And that was like his entire interpretation, even though it wasn't in the original text, was just
Yeah.
how much Edward like despised being alive. And I think that he translated that interpretation to this version of Batman.
You know, I never thought of it like that, but yeah, kind of. I could totally
Yeah.
see in that performance of like, I just hate myself.
Well, I think
It's not that way in the movie, but he is very much like his interpretation of Batman is just like, I am just this. I am the Batman.
exactly. I was gonna say, I
Nothing
think he
else.
doesn't hate himself so much as he hates Bruce Wayne,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But to be fair, how Bruce was like kind of living in the facade that he has to like keep up as Bruce Wayne in order to keep his work as the Batman secret.
Doesn't work.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It's-
It goes
well,
directly
here's-
against his moral code.
Yeah, there is no Bruce Wayne in this movie.
There really
Yeah.
is not.
Yeah.
Like
Like,
there
there's
is
that.
one scene with him as Bruce Wayne. And
Right, there's literally
That's it.
Alfred has that line where it's
Or-
like, is Bruce gonna make an appearance?
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
it's almost like he's the disguise, not the real person.
Which
Yeah.
is the way in the books.
Yeah.
That is how he is in the books, but in the books he still has Bruce Wayne again is his alter ego in the limelight of things because he has to play up that playboy thing in the books.
Yeah.
In this movie there is no playboy.
Right.
But I actually like that interpretation because going forward I would like to see this guy have to put on some kind of persona. Or if they want to take a different interpretation of the character and just have it be this way. Because I think, without going into spoilers yet, I think the end of this movie sets up him being more Bruce Wayne going forward than Batman.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just really liked his performance, and my God, just he acts so well with his eyes. And
Yeah.
if you want to bring up,
Yeah.
I know you have,
Hmm?
you wanted to
Oh,
bring something
yeah,
up about
okay.
eyes.
The commitment that it took to put on that much eyeshadow for this role. Goodness
Eyeshadow,
gra-
it's just ink.
It's like,
Like-
spray painting his eyes.
Goodness gracious.
It's like the War Boys just.
Yeah. My only question is he shopping at Ulta or Sephora? Goodness gracious.
I like to think he
Yeah.
shops at Party City.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that he
Just-
makes Alfred do it for him. Like,
Oh,
Alfred,
yeah.
go and
Oh,
get
yeah.
me more Sephora.
That makes sense. Or like,
Alfred's just in the store, like, trying on the perfumes.
Yes.
What
I
gives the
can see
musty
that.
scent of a bat?
I was gonna say, how can we get Master Wayne to smell less bad?
Oh, you know
That
he hasn't
sounds
taken
about
a
right.
shower.
Yeah.
Like
No.
the
Well,
only
see, I
scene in the movie
appreciate-
where he shows up as Bruce Wayne, I believe that's the first day in a while he's taken a shower.
Oh yeah.
See, that's the
100%.
thing, is it's
Which I
like
appreciate. I thought that was pretty
Christian
interesting.
Bale's Bruce Wayne was so interesting because he literally read like just Patrick Bateman, but less
Oh, yeah.
unhinged.
Yeah.
But
Less.
yeah,
Less.
less unhinged.
Uh-huh.
But like, what was interesting was that he was that like, you know, good-looking, fun-loving playboy type, and Robert Pattinson plays this Bruce Wayne who has like never had sex, does not take a shower. Right? It's
Yeah.
like this totally opposite interpretation, which I think is just great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's a really interesting take on the Batman character because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I've never seen this before, and I like seeing this. Again, I know we're kind of circling the wagon okay, we went from a realistic Batman with the Dark Knight trilogy to Ben Affleck's more comic book Batman,
Yeah.
and now we're back to the realistic Batman, which is now so realistic that he's more like I think even Matt Reeves, who I want to talk about in a minute, says that they based this Bruce Wayne off of Kurt Cobain.
I'm just glad we're stepping away from Frank Miller's Batman stories. Only to a certain extent, but I'm just like
I have to disagree because a lot of this movie does take some pages from Year One.
yes, it does, but it also takes from Long Halloween, which
A lot from Long Halloween.
which
a lot
I
from Year Two.
am I not mistaken? That's not Frank Miller, correct?
No, I
Okay.
think it's
Yes.
Jeff Loeb.
Yeah, I think so.
Jeff Loeb. Yeah,
I don't. This may be a hot take. I don't love Frank Miller's Batmans.
that's fair.
I think that they're very like. In general, I think that Frank Miller has written some very important literature. I hate.
Killing Joke.
Yeah,
Okay.
Killing Joke is terrible.
Okay.
And
Hot take.
Alan Moore, who wrote that, correct?
Yes.
Alan Moore also hates it, so I feel justified in that.
Alan Moore hates everything he's made.
That is true, but specifically Killing Joke.
That's fair,
He's talked about, and I completely agree with him on this. The treatment of women in that story is horrible for no reason. The thing that he has said that about it, and he also said, I wrote a story that tells you something about Batman and Joker, neither of whom are real people or close to anything that could be real people. So ultimately, I wrote a story that you can't take anything away from. There's no human element. That was his
No, I have to disagree with that. And I know it's not. This isn't about the Batman,
Right.
but it is about a Batman story. I could take away some human element ideas from it because I think with the message of the story about like the one bad day, I can agree with like the idea of like someone can go, horrible things can come from maybe the nicest of people. Like if we go based on what the Joker's quote unquote origin story was.
Right, the whole like multiple choice.
The whole
thing.
multiple choice thing and the one that they chose to show. I think it's interesting to show that, and like even then, at the moral of the story is about like the Joker trying to corrupt Jim Gordon,
Right.
and ultimately it really doesn't work. So there is some human elements. So I think Alan Moore's just out of his ass sometimes.
Sometimes, but I do understand. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I proved that these people could have been like Joker. But ultimately, people aren't the Joker in real life.
Yeah.
And that's what he said, where he was
Fair.
just like, you know, I wrote this story that tells you something that is pretty insightful about these superheroes who will never exist in reality in any capacity. I just think that that kind of era of really gritty, like...
The 80s.
Yeah, of like really gritty,
The
like
80s.
bleak Batman, I appreciate, because for a while in this movie, before the end, and I will save the rest of this...
For spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay, because
But, like,
we're
yeah.
kind of taking a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, just to tangent, and this whole section might wind up getting cut out, who knows.
I'm
But,
out to.
yeah.
If you could successfully segue this back into our conversation, I will not cut it out.
Okay.
Pressure.
So what I'm saying is that I think that Robert Pattinson's Batman had the opportunity to go in the gritty, dark 80s Batman direction, and
Okay.
the ending does not.
Way to go. All right, not cutting it out. Because I agree. I think that's what I like about this interpretation of Batman that's different from the rest, is that it actually gives Batman a character arc. I'm not going to talk about what that arc is because I do think that's spoilers.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give credit to the director and co-writer of this movie, Matt Reeves.
Before we go away from acting, can we talk about Paul Dano? Because we completely didn't talk about Paul Dano.
Well, we didn't talk about Zoe Kravitz. We didn't talk
Yeah.
about, like,
Yeah.
fucking Colin Farrell.
Well, I'm just saying before we move on from acting, I think we should talk about some of
Okay,
the others
okay.
because there's more than just
Understandable.
Robert Pattinson was really good. He
Yeah.
was
Well,
always
he-
going to be good.
Well, here's the reason why I want to bring up him. It is his movie. It is the Batman, and he is in that suit for most of the movie, and you have to give him credit for that because, look, I knew he was going to be good because I've seen movies like The Lighthouse. I've seen bits of Good Time.
You should watch all of Good Time. That is a fucking incredible movie.
I know, and they do have a reference. I just wanted to give a big spotlight on this because going into the movie, a lot of people were like, all right, Twilight Kid, prove
Yeah.
me.
Exactly.
And also, he's still going over that, like, a lot of my friends, like, really like Robert Pattinson. That's the only reason why they really wanted to go see this movie. And there are some scenes in this movie where you can be like, oh, that's hot.
Oh my god, every scene with him and Zoe Kravitz.
Oh, their
Like, I have-
chemistry's so
I have
good.
never seen two actors
Yeah.
more, like, flagrantly want to fuck each other. Like,
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm not coming up with any.
no, right? Like,
Examples.
that's not even spoilers, because it's in the, like...
It's in the trailers.
Yeah.
And
Like,
it's definitely a part of their, like, even in the comics, they're just like two characters like, we just want to
fuck our
fuck our
brains
brains out. I say for this movie, I'm surprised that I appreciate how much it toted the rated R line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was surprisingly less than I was anticipating.
What do
Gonna
you
be honest.
mean?
Like, okay. The bar for, like, R.
Okay.
I was expecting it to be quote unquote worse. You
Okay,
know?
yeah.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
the
the movie
like,
has taste.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
movie has taste. There's a particular joke regarding someone's thumb that I thought was pretty funny.
It was hilarious.
Yeah,
I
Joelle,
made
you
me
were
laugh.
telling me on like the ride home from the theater, you were like trying not to.
Okay.
I thought that was
This
funny.
is probably gonna be cut, but yeah.
You know what else was?
If I was gonna be a villain, I probably would have pretty similar humor to the Riddler in this movie.
I did appreciate how.
No, I'm not
fucking-
cutting that. People need to know that now.
No, they don't.
Joelle Rapp, I'm just like the Riddler.
That was not what I said.
Anyways,
Audience, that's not what I said.
I loved how fucking funny they made the Riddler because I was
Oh,
really
yeah.
worried with the marketing going into this movie
Mm-hmm.
that they were going to use the Riddler as a substitute Joker and just make him like
Yeah.
crazy anarchist type, and they actually brought a lot of the like weird humor of that character
Mm-hmm.
to life.
Like, I was shocked. Like,
There's a
without it being too Jim Carrey, they kind of brought a little bit of, like, Jim Carrey-isms.
yeah.
Which I thought was actually pretty cool. I was like, oh, they're keeping the consistency of this character.
Yes.
And they're not just, like, completely doing a redo on this character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, he's still smart. He's still crazy. He still likes to laugh at his own jokes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also, again, not to spoil, the scene where they decrypt the thing near the end,
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the funniest fucking things I have seen in a movie in so long.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess other performances that I want to give a big shout out that I haven't been hearing a lot from on the internet is I really like John Turturro's Carmine Falcone.
Yeah.
I thought, like,
Yeah.
because mostly from what I've seen him from is like the Transformers movies and The Big Lebowski. But in this movie, I was genuinely terrified of Carmine Falcone in certain moments because I was like, oh, this guy's like one of those people where just with like a wave of his hand, he can like end someone's career, kill them, anything. He's just a very scary person, and I was actually shocked how much Carmine Falcone was in this actual movie.
Yeah.
All right, well, quickly say this. I really liked the directing in this movie. I thought all the shots were really beautiful. I love the cinematographer. Same one from Rogue One. And there's some moments in this movie that are very much like Rogue One. Going off of the directing, I really like the pacing in this movie.
Yeah, for being a 3-hour movie, it did not feel.
It felt like a good
dragged.
2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where,
It felt shorter than it
Mhm.
actually is.
I mean, there's some stuff that I feel like, okay, maybe we can cut out some shots.
But
Like,
even-
there's a lot of close-up shots where, like, yes, we get it. Gotham is dirty.
Yeah.
I understand. I think we can, like, cut this out just for time. Like, I think someone brought up, I saw one review brought up where there's a scene at the end of the movie where two people are on motorcycles, and I was thinking, and they said, you could cut out some of those shots because it was kind of going on for a bit too long, and I was like, you know what? I agree with that because there's, like, maybe 2 shots too many of just like, yes, we get it. these characters are doing their own separate things. I get it. Like, the movie's about to end. Come on.
I think when you're criticizing a movie and you have to get down to the nitty-gritty, like the number of shots in a certain scene, that's a pretty solid indicator of the movie being very good.
I agree with you on that. That's what I'm saying. Like, but that's like the director and editor in me.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, we need to cut this down for time because it's already we're already asking the audience to sit down for a 3-hour movie. Let's be at least a bit considerate.
So, and it's interesting because for me, I don't fuck with any of the technical stuff. Like, that's not where my skill set is.
It's only my skill set because I've done so much of it.
Right, but what I was going to say is the thing that I find myself immersed in with stuff is narrative. Like, that's where my head is at. Mm-hmm. And even if there are, like, shots and stuff you can cut, the narrative, super tough.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
right.
That was what really blew me away, I was like, I don't think there was anything you could have removed from this and kept the full story intact.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm agreeing. That's why I'm just saying cut shots.
Right, exactly.
Because there's just certain shots
that,
where it was just like, but I just felt like, yes, it's a very tight script.
Yeah,
and I can understand why this movie's 3 hours long and the story they wanted to tell with that. I have heard some people say that they don't like the third act.
That's interesting because I thought the third act was great.
I really like the third act.
Yeah.
I just felt the only thing if there's any negative I have about the third act, it's just I felt it was like we were doing this gritty Seven style movie, and then all of a sudden we are now in like a more traditional Batman movie.
See, I don't
where
know
I
that
felt
I
like,
agree,
oh, okay, this
actually.
is now like a big bombastic. It's not like a Fast and Furious or Avengers fight scene, but it's definitely more of like a hyper-real fight scene where it's just like suddenly we are fighting off girders and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this is a bit of a jump, but I also really liked it because it really, being a Batman movie, it felt like, oh no, this is where Batman's trying to start to become into his own and be Batman. Right. I thought that was what I liked about it. And that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, and I don't even know that I would say that it was like an out of nowhere change because with a story like Seven, if that shit happened today, that is what would happen. Like the ending of the Batman movie would go down, I think, similarly. Without getting into spoilers.
Okay. Well, okay.
I
think we're really wanting to talk spoilers, so I'm going to start. I'll say I really like the action in this movie. Fight choreography. Really good.
The one where it's all dark and only the gunfire lights it up.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay. I feel like that could have been better advertised, especially for people who...
Okay.
Just the existence of flashing lights.
Okay.
Yeah. Can cause issues for people.
Oh.
And it wasn't... I didn't, come across anything close to that nature except, on my own after the movie.
Right.
Yeah. And
you know what? Yeah, I've heard some people complain about, again, with the shot thing, there's a moment in the movie where I think it's a bit of okay, we didn't need to do that, where, we are cutting to really close up on the bat signal, really close up on, a motorcycle's headlight.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a cool look.
It's a cool look, but it was I was even
Yeah.
It is so bright.
Yeah.
For a movie it is dark in tone, but also
it's dark.
Lit dark.
Right.
It's okay, and then all of a sudden you just get this bright flashing feeling. I was just okay, maybe it's supposed to get in the mind of Batman, who literally calls himself a nocturnal animal in this movie.
Yeah, but I think that photosensitivity warnings and stuff.
That's fair. I agree.
Yeah. I had this issue, so I went over our spring break. I went to go see Licorice Pizza, which was not good. But it started with this music video by Haim, who are a decent band, and Paul Thomas Anderson directed it. What?
The movie starts like that?
Yeah, there's a music video that plays before it starts. But it was weird because my projector was having this issue where it was flashing colors at us during the music video, which wasn't intentional. And I was like, hey, that's a really dangerous issue to have.
Yeah.
Right? Not to derail this podcast with talk about photosensitivity warnings.
Well, no, I think it's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. That's a really, you could have genuinely, injured someone.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't get your fucking projector working.
I felt like it was warranted in the gunfire sequence.
Yeah, but
because that made sense, and I thought that was a pretty cool artistic decision.
Yeah,
I just felt more of the shots.
Yeah.
That's my big thing about this movie. If I have any negative, it's just that it feels in moments a bit pretentious. Of just that's why I'm saying just cut down some shots.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the pretentiousness of it
Okay.
because it feels like a Batman art film in a way. Where like
Yeah,
they
like
really-
this is a totally different feeling from like
Oh,
a
yeah.
more action-packed Batman film.
This is not your standard blockbuster. This
Yeah.
is
Definitely
more
not.
of your like. March is like a perfect place for this movie, honestly, because it really reminded me of like how Logan wasn't like your standard superhero movie. That like I felt like without Logan you wouldn't have had this movie.
No.
That's fair.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Okay, fair.
Well, like, see, well, what I'm saying is that, like, I think that a Batman movie like this was always going to get made. Because just that's where, like, the genre has been going, right?
Mhm.
Like, people have wanted, since Dark Knight, which was a good movie,
Mhm.
but it was very, like, Batman as a superhero,
Mhm.
not, like, Batman as a human being who could feasibly do things.
Or as a detective, because that's
Right.
a huge part of the character in DC Comics, Detective Comics.
And I was going to say, this movie definitely feels less like a movie where things happen and more like Blade Runner. At
Oh
times.
yeah, they're both noir. I felt like again the pacing of this movie was still very good and kept the plot moving, and there was no moment of like us feeling like okay, come on, move on.
Yeah.
We're kind of dragging here. I never felt like this movie was dragging. It was always like go, 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 and the movie takes place in like a time span of 6 days. So yeah, even in that regard, it's like
Yeah.
come on, keep going.
Yeah, it's you really have to think about watching it. It's not like a dumb turn your brain off movie.
No, yeah, I agree.
Like The Dark
Yeah.
Knight Rises was sort of like a turn your brain off movie. At
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, like even
Mhm.
I think with a character like the Riddler, you need to have your brain on, where you're like, okay, can I see if I can?
Oh,
figure
Well,
yeah.
I
out
love
these
that
things?
the Riddler is like primarily the antagonist, not in 85% of the film. But like his antagonism is what actively drives the plot at all times.
That's fair.
I
Yeah.
thought that was a really good way
Yeah.
of doing the Riddler. That feels like right for his character.
Where it feels like because this one thing happened, everybody else is trying to like cover their own ass. Here.
Well, and it's interesting to contrast this with how Batman is played in this movie, because the Riddler's physical presence is never the source of his antagonism.
I only disagree in the opening scene.
Well, yes, but like the point being that, okay, like 95% of the time,
Okay,
then,
that's fair.
the Riddler is not like a physically threatening character.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's the things that he does and the information that he plays on people
Mhm.
that drives the plot forward, which is rarely tied to him having to physically interact with the characters.
Yeah, that's
Which
fair.
feels like a very accurate take on that character.
Mhm. This interpretation of the Riddler is more based off like real life serial killers like Ted Kaczynski, the Zodiac Killer, a little bit of
Right.
definitely some inspirations from John Doe in Seven. I just have one more non-spoiler thing. I just want to get everybody's interpretation on it. I'm just gonna say this. This is probably my favorite Batman soundtrack.
I wish
love-
they had had more songs
Mhm.
by Nirvana than Something in the Way.
No,
as
I
cool
thought
as that
it-
motif was, I
Yeah. I
do.
love
It
that
did feel a
motif.
little repetitive by the end. Where
I
was
don't
like,
care.
And
I'm
now,
so glad.
and now Something in the End is playing for the 4th time.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They only played it at the beginning and the end.
Played it a few times in there, I'm pretty sure.
It did feel like it helped tie it all back around in
Mhm.
a nice little bow.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
what I liked about it. Where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, and
Okay,
also
you have twice your crit.
Yeah. That was so
Right.
aggressive.
I like how the song can be played in both ways. Like hearing it in the beginning, you get a certain tone. Hearing it at the end, it's a very different tone.
Yeah.
And that's what I really appreciate about it. Also, this is just me. I love it when movies play songs from the trailer that they had. That's
Yeah.
just a little pet peeve that I have in movies where they don't play the song they had in the trailer in the actual movie or show.
That's fair.
That's fair. For me,
Yeah.
Like
I
a lot
think
of-
that's a question of whether or not this trailer song is like indicative of the general tone of the soundtrack, because that's what bugs me.
Mhm.
Right, like I can deal with the specific song not being in it, but if they choose a song that sounds nothing like the music in the actual movie,
You know what?
that's where I get bothered.
And
Mhm.
the music in the actual movie, composed by Michael Giacchino.
Yeah.
That I love. This is probably my favorite version of the Batman theme. I will always have a special place for the Danny Elfman theme. Always have a special place for the Hans Zimmer theme. But what I like about this theme, that I love the both. It plays up the epic nature of the character and also the really like sad roots of this character. Like if you listen to the actual Batman theme of this movie, which I've done many times, I just love, my favorite part of that isn't the part that most people will go to. It's my favorite part is in that middle where it just has this, like, you get into the mind of, like, Bruce Wayne. It's like this sad person, but constantly trying to, like, pick himself back up to do something for the city, either through vengeance or other ways. But yeah, I just love the soundtrack. There's just certain moments in this movie where it plays really well. Every character has a theme. I love their little take on Ave Maria.
Yeah. I love that the person who sings it is credited as having sung it in the soundtrack section at the end.
I had to point that out to you, too. And I
Yeah.
loved it. I was like, no way, that's hilarious.
That's so
Yes.
fucking funny.
It's so good.
But yeah, okay. The seawall's about to break. Alright, we're going to get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen it and you do care about seeing the movie and you don't want to get spoiled, I would say turn away. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're listening to on Wave Radio, please give our other shows a listen to. There's a lot of great people on this website. And yeah, so now we're going to get into spoilers. Josh, I know you're just chomping at the bit to talk about something.
I am. So many things. First
Okay.
of all, Paul Dano as an incel, incredible choice.
Yeah.
I was super happy that they played this Riddler as, like, never touched a woman in his life.
I have a feeling that there's a lot of characters like that in this movie.
That is true, but
Even
specifically Riddler being like the kind of guy who would call himself red-pilled.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, my
Yeah.
favorite like laugh out loud moment in this movie was the moment where it's like this really like scary scene, like we're about to find out the Riddler's true motive.
Hey guys,
And
thanks
yeah.
for all the comments.
And they playing it up like a YouTube Twitch video.
It was so
And
good.
the fucking usernames, right? It's like,
Oh yeah.
All of the tension just immediately broken.
Yeah.
Just gone.
But like in the back of your head you're like, that
Oh,
is
no,
so funny,
it's
but
so-
you know something like this would happen.
You recognize
yeah.
it, and
We're-
that's what's most
That's- and
disturbing.
that's what I was
it's
saying with
funny and
7.
scary.
Yes,
where
exactly.
you're like, oh god, like, yeah, like you totally buy like this guy inspired a bunch of crazy people in.
And again, this is what I
Gotham.
was mentioning with 7 earlier,
Mhm.
is I'm like, serial killer like that now totally would inspire copycats.
Oh,
like
yeah.
100%.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the fact,
And I loved how even in the, like they still kept like the campy nature of like every Batman villain has henchmen, but they still found a really clever way to actually make it work.
yeah.
Where I was like, oh, I love you, Matt Reeves, for actually finding a way to make that work.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it felt like, because like in the Arkham games, like every villain has their own version of a henchman.
Yeah.
And even in this movie, it's scary because they're practically, they are terrorists.
Yeah,
Right.
and I love the fact that they were able to work out how the uniforms work and why they did that.
In the fucking
And,
Twitch
like,
chat.
It was so good. They're like, you look it up here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
go to the
cool.
Gotham Army Supply. That's where they
Yeah.
have it.
Gotham Army, they was like,
Yeah.
hey, this look would look really cool. Here's our little logo, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure that you bring this type of gun.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then there was that one guy that showed up with a shotgun. Are you kidding me? They specifically said rifles.
Hey man, but he got some good licks in.
He did.
He really did.
But it's like,
He-
why
he
did you
was
come prepared for that?
Well, to be fair, I felt like when you have like a Batman, you're like, maybe I should
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
kind of ready. Like I know
I'll
you.
have some backup ready.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like yeah, all right. You're the shadows, all right. Let me just point
Yeah.
out the shadows.
Yeah.
See,
And it was the gun that almost took him out.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was the most ironic part.
Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
was
the
just
guy
like-
that didn't follow directions was the one that almost
He was
actually
probably
did
the one
it.
guy that got made fun of.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, fuck you, Jerry. Why'd you bring a shotgun to our sniping killing event?
Yeah, we said rifles, not shotguns. God damn it, Jerry. Yeah, I love that element of the movie. I think the Riddler was done really well. I'll also say I really like the scene where you think the Riddler figured out Batman and who he really is.
And it's like, it's still unclear having watched the scene if he did.
I agree.
Which
Whereas
is such a Riddler way of doing that.
Uh-huh,
Because with Joker, when he finds it out, usually
he just
it's
won't
like,
tell.
no, and like, yeah, but like sometimes he'll kind of rub his face in it.
Oh yeah, he'll
Right?
be like,
Riddler
I
doesn't
know.
do that because he doesn't want
Yeah.
Batman to know if he knows.
Yeah.
Because Riddler is like fucking playing head games the whole time.
Because Riddler, all of his power relied on, like, how information is revealed and when.
Oh yeah.
Being
yeah.
able to hold on to this reveal is a piece of power that he still has, even when he is.
I'll say this.
In
I don't
prison.
think he knows. Only reason why is because in that scene, he is playing up... Well, the movie has said to us that Bruce Wayne was the target of
Yeah.
the Riddler killings.
Right.
And that was an intentional target. And the fact that he just kind of... And yet he... It's weird. He hates Bruce Wayne, but he idolizes Batman. Which I really like in this movie, where it's like... I like that they finally addressed, like, hey, Batman, maybe the reason why there's a bunch of, like, really crazy serial killers with weird names is kind of because of you.
Yeah.
Which I love that they find... I love a movie where it's like, hey, maybe Batman isn't all that right in the head.
Right.
And I will talk about that in a minute, but go on.
I want to say, and you can cut this section because it might be like, ugh. This is a very political movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
100%.
like, one of the things that I appreciated as someone who is pretty far like left-leaning
Okay.
is that they managed to criticize the potential dangers of far-left philosophy without knocking it conceptually. Because they play Riddler that way. Right?
Oh,
where it's
okay,
like,
yeah.
Riddler is very overtly like, the Gotham elite are screwing over poor people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, that's his whole
And
thing. Which is objectively a leftist point of view.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's
Yeah.
no denying that. And yet, what they show is that Riddler doesn't want real change so much as he wants people to die.
He's one of those people who... I almost say he's like a white knight, where he's just like, oh, I'm doing this for people to make it all better.
Yeah.
Right, well, he's like, again, just like as someone who knows, like, kind of left stuff, there's this whole thing...
And
this
I guess I don't.
Well, no, it's just that's like being immersed in that space. There's definitely this concept, or this like kind of person, who is like left-leaning in the sense that they think that we should like kill people who have more than $100 in their wallet.
Oh, yeah.
Not in the
Okay,
sense
yeah.
that like we should help uplift people who need it.
Like, yeah,
Yes.
like...
Which are two different...
Which they
Totally
do show in
different
the movie
spectrums.
with the Mayor Real.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
I appreciate, where it's just like, oh no, like, there is a very... The whole political spectrum's in this movie, and it shows, I think for the most part, like, the goods and bads of both. The funniest part was before the movie, we saw this movie, we had a friend, like, tell us, like, oh yeah, we heard, like, she was telling us, like, oh yeah, we heard this movie, I heard this movie was going to be very political. And then,
progressive, I think was the
Progressive.
word. It was too progressive.
and then we both looked at each other, we were like, a Batman movie? Okay, like, interesting. And the
a
one...
movie about a billionaire beating up poor people who commit crime is going to be too progressive.
Yeah, and there was a moment in the theater where I was like, oh god, that I already know there's going to be so many, like, internet dipshits complaining about one particular line that
Well, and
Catwoman
see-
says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I was-
Selena.
Where she's like, oh, these privileged white dudes. And I was just like, well, there it is, everybody's triggered. I thought that line was actually really perfect because it also reflects on, like, why Catwoman and Batman can never be together, because she has fallen in love with Batman and doesn't know he's Bruce Wayne.
Right,
And hates Bruce
And
Wayne.
he hates Bruce Wayne, but...
Everybody hates Bruce Wayne.
Exactly.
That's
It's
the moral of the
interesting
story.
because that's how they play it, right? Is Batman is the symbol, at the end at least, of progress, of hope, of like progression.
Which is very different from any Batman story that I've ever seen.
I liked it as an ending.
I did too. I loved it.
I like stories that end with hope, and that's what I think that I
Yeah.
liked about this movie is that it does this thing that I think a lot of stories struggle with, where it is tonally dark without being thematically dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Where it's not like another Seven scenario where it's like, the moral of the story is, life sucks.
Right, it's
This
not...
movie's like...
It's not like fucking... My friend has this joke that like Scooby-Doo taught us that monsters or the like humans are the real monsters, right? That being the point of like about 1 billion different movies. And I appreciated that it wasn't that. That Batman gets to be like, no, uplifting people is the way
he's
to
even
go.
saying, I need to change.
I need to be hope, not fear.
Yeah.
Because like even like the Riddler goons
Real change.
quote him. Well, yeah.
Sorry. Continue.
Even the Riddler goons at the end saying, they quote him by saying, I'm vengeance, and he's like, fuck, I started this.
Yeah.
And
like,
he's
oh,
just like, I'm the reason why everybody's in the gutter, and I gotta do something about this, and like, what I'm doing now is not gonna work for real change, as you said, Joel. Yeah, I like the finale. I like that the movie ends off with this feeling of like, oh, what's next? Because, yeah, as you said, like, with Carmine Falcone gone, there's going to be a struggle for power, and new people are going to start rising up.
Penguin.
I can't wait for that Penguin show, because that's going to be really cool, and I like that keeping in with the name of the Penguin, his domain is now all water.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I also hope that they cast Danny DeVito in a cameo role. That would make me really happy.
Okay.
That would be so good.
That would
No.
be cool.
Yeah, just like I don't need him to do anything significant for the plot.
Mhm.
Just have Danny DeVito show up as like a patron at the Iceberg Lounge and just order a drink.
He plays his character from Mars Attacks.
I was
a
thinking
lawyer.
it was yeah, like one of his other characters, like Frank Reynolds shows up at the Iceberg
Yes.
Lounge.
Just drops a condom. Like,
Yeah.
oh no! Just a couple things. I like the quote-unquote twist on the Wayne legacy they had in this movie.
That was cool.
I like that we revealed that, oh no, Batman, the reason why he's crazy, it's genetic.
Yeah.
Kinda. Well,
that
they
was
s-
interesting.
Yeah, that it's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
Batman's like legitimately mentally ill, not
Yeah.
just like the
Even in
normal-
that moment,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and when it's revealed to the audience and he's watching on the screen, he's like, oh fuck.
And that's the thing
'Cause-
with Batman is there's always like a baseline level of like trauma-induced mental illness that he's like
Yeah.
shown to suffer.
Like, I genuinely think he believes it's the trauma is the reason why he's doing this.
Yeah,
not,
and it really recontextualizes that scene at the beginning where he has
Oh,
to
yeah.
watch everything back to make himself remember.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
And like knowing what we know about the new backstory they set up for him, I'm like, oh no, he like genuinely has to like do that.
I thought that it was also an interesting reflection back on the 2019 Joker.
Okay, yeah.
Mental illness being like the
Yeah.
root of
Uh-huh.
how this character is going to be portrayed
Yeah.
in certain aspects,
Mhm.
you know?
Uh-huh.
And how it is both playing off of there is the genetic component in addition to
Mhm.
like the environment that they had to live in for the longest time.
Yeah, but also what I like about it is that, unlike Joker, where it's just like, oh, this person's just gonna keep
Oh, yeah.
spiraling down. Like,
This one's trying
I'll
to
say-
pick himself up.
he's trying to pick himself up. He's coping with it in
Yeah.
a very strange way.
Yeah, not a good way.
But he's coping, and he's also
Uh-huh.
working with it. Like, at the end of the movie, he's like, look, I now realize what I was is not a good way to
Mhm.
move forward. I need to be hope for this city.
Yeah.
I like that. I also, as a nerd, I thought it was really cool that they made Martha Arkham.
Yeah.
Just because,
Yeah.
like,
It was a nice touch.
Mhm.
I thought that was really cool. It also ties into, like, Arkham Asylum, that being a huge part of why Gotham is Gotham.
Yeah.
Speaking of Arkham Asylum,
Oh,
should we talk about unnamed Arkham prisoner?
yeah, or as I like to say, Joker.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
It's really funny because Matt Reeves went in an interview like the day after release, like, yeah, he's not going to be in the next movie.
Oh, yeah.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, I don't need to see another Joker,
No,
Batman
please.
Joker
Not
movie
really.
right now.
No.
I could wait for the third one.
Yeah, he said he doesn't know if there is ever going to be like a Barry Keoghan like centered Joker Batman movie, which is
I
weird
don't
because
know.
on the one hand, Barry Keoghan as like a proper Joker would be cool.
Yeah.
On the other hand, please, any other Batman villain, I beg of you.
Well, okay. One of the things I want to talk about is some sequel expectations. Like, what villains would you guys like to see? Maybe, like, besides Joker.
Scarecrow.
I'm kind of
My favorite Batman villain.
I know a
fucking
lot of
love
people.
Scarecrow.
I think after Arkham Knight, I'm kind of done with Scarecrow.
Well, yeah, but you can do Scarecrow good.
I
Arkham
know.
Knight just doesn't.
I just have a soft spot in my heart for Poison Ivy. I would love to see her made into a main villain, you know?
That'd be interesting, yeah. For
You know what?
Like, she always is, like, kind of there, but always on the sidelines, because there's always, like, Joker, or, there are, like, a bunch of series that are focused around Harley Quinn that she'll come into,
Mhm.
but,
You know, I
yeah.
just thinking about. I think it'd be really interesting to take like the environmental science
exactly.
villain side of it,
Eco-terrorist.
eco-terrorist kind of
Yeah.
side of it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, because this whole world is trying to take a lot of the characters and put them into a real-world lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unlike Scarecrow, I think Scarecrow could work. I think,
Scarecrow worked in Batman Begins.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it could work again. I think, I like the idea of Poison Ivy because that's something
Yeah.
I didn't.
No, I'm sold on that now for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I also
Yes.
heard, like, the director wants to figure out a way to do Mr. Freeze.
Right.
He wants to do Mr. Freeze in a real-world take, and I'm like,
We're in global warming right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of...
you could just do Batman and Robin again, just make it more serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would, the balls on him were like, we're going to take, like, the main, like, characters of Batman and Robin and make an actual good movie out of it.
See, there's a lot of... The thing with this Batman movie is that it was so good at doing Riddler, who is, like, never been, like, a high-up Batman villain.
Oh, yeah.
And making him into something really interesting, that it opens the doors for, like, basically any villain to come next. Right? Like, it could be someone who has been relegated to previously less interesting roles, like Poison Ivy, which would be awesome.
And Mr. Freeze, because, that movie... I know he's the main villain of that movie, but he's, like, it's not the... Like, I still think the best interpretation of Mr. Freeze is from the animated series. That's still my favorite version. I think you can take, like, the baseline motive for him wanting to figure out a cure for his wife's illness.
Right.
I just don't know how you get to do his power set.
Right, like, make it realistic, so he's just, like, using liquid nitrogen or something, but, like...
But, like, a liquid nitrogen gun that freezes people automatically?
Sure, maybe he made it in his garage.
Yeah.
I guess.
Right, like, I think that there's these interesting opportunities. And as much as I love, like, Scarecrow, and I think Matt Reeves would do a great Scarecrow, Cillian Murphy was already a really good Scarecrow, he was just underused.
Yeah. Even though he was in all three Batman movies.
Yet he never got to do anything except for deliver lines in, like, a weirdly thirsty way, which was great. It's like, wow.
I guess...
Yeah.
I think one villain that they do set up in this movie that would be interesting is Hush.
That is true.
Hush would be an interesting villain, but really what I want to see, just because of how they set up the general world of this movie, Court of Owls.
Yeah, that feels like the logical progression.
Like, just to, like, keep going to, like, oh, you thought Gotham was corrupt before? Oh, you just wait.
Yeah.
Just also because if you know, like, how the Court of Owls storyline goes, where it starts off with Bruce Wayne trying to figure out a way to fix the city, and then the Court of Owls are like, and they're like, they send a Talon after him. I don't know how you could do Talons, like the assassins they send out. Just because they're a bit more comic booky assassins.
Yeah, but I think it could work.
Oh, it could definitely work, and I want to see it. Like a thing that's always been in Gotham, and something now that's more new in Gotham, and it's just he's not knowing about it yet.
And it gives the opportunity, because if something like that existed, Paul Dano as Riddler would for sure know about it, so you could almost Hannibal Lecter him a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, have Batman, like, kind of talk to him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, see, like, and that's...
And then every time you just have that tension, and then... Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, where it's like, is he actually gonna put it together yet, that this person just happens to also care about these causes that Bruce Wayne is now investing in?
But so, I think it would be cool if they brought Riddler back to, like, kind of tease Batman into the Court of Owls a little. Just kind of give him, like, put him on the right path.
I also think, going back to the Hush thing, in the story Hush, that has to deal with a bunch of different criminals and villains as well. Right. So I still think we could all have our villains that we want within that Hush movie, too.
Yeah.
It's just that Hush is behind it all. I think that would be a cool way to do it.
It would, but at what point does a movie have, like, too many villains?
Yeah, would you want that to really be a sequel? Or would you want that to be a later movie?
I think Court of Owls should be the sequel, and I think the later movie should be Hush. Because in Hush, that story has multiple villains. Even Poison Ivy, I think that would be, like, a really cool way to, like, okay, Batman, you just defeated the Court of Owls, and now, like, all these criminals in Gotham are just waiting to be released, and the son of, I think in the new Batman movie, Edward Elliot is like, all right, Batman, I'm gonna give you something to work for here, like, or like, at the end of the sequel with the Court of Owls, like, Bruce Wayne has figured out a way to, like, or he's gonna forward his way to, like, fixing the city. Actually, Thomas Elliot wants to get back on the ones who killed his dad. Then he'll figure out a way, like, okay, gonna release the flood of all these villains just for them to mess down the great Bruce Wayne. Then you can have your little bit of Joker in there. Also, I remember hearing the director say that Joker was supposed to be more in this movie as a Hannibal Lecter style villain.
Right.
But they were like,
well, it was just one conversation.
Yeah, and at that point, I would agree that it's not really worth it.
Yeah.
I also think you could have cut that scene and put it as a post-credit scene, honestly.
Well, I think he's going to include it as, like, a Blu-ray extra.
Well,
which is
no, the scene in the Joker scene in the actual movie. I think it's better as a post-credit than it would have been as in the actual movie. Because the
Okay.
post-credit we have in this movie is kind of like, okay, I get what you're going for here.
Mhm.
It's kind of lame.
What was it again?
Exactly. It's at the end of the movie, you wait for it, and it just goes to URL.
Oh, right. Well, there's a
rada.com.
fucking ARG tied to it.
Yeah. Which I'm like, okay, not everybody's going to care about doing that, so just put the scene of the Riddler and Joker there.
Right.
That's the part where I was like, that's a bit pretentious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was an ARG, and that's, like, popular in indie games, and now that's becoming...
Which is kind of funny, because I totally see, like, the Riddler being a big fan of, like, Undertale or some shit.
Yeah. The Riddler religiously watches game theory.
Yes!
Definitely. This is
Let me
accepted.
get back to talking about the Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh my god. He is the Purple Man.
But no, I definitely think that including the, like, Batman talks to Joker is, like, a Blu-ray extra of, like, hey, this didn't really fit in the movie that we created, but it was an interesting thing and I want to share it, totally makes sense.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big supporter of deleted scenes. Because
yeah.
I think sometimes you'll write a scene that is just good.
Good.
Like, it's good, and then you look at the whole picture and you're like, even though that's a good scene, I just don't know that it fits in this story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know what would be really, like, kind of a funny bit to keep up if they were to do this? If they had put that as an end credit scene, if they had put another end credit scene at the next one.
Where it's
doing
just
a similar
more
thing.
villains.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
It's just like, it's like a
like-
cafeteria at Arkham.
I was just about to
Exactly.
say, welcome to the lunch table.
Oh, so who do you hate?
You hate Batman too? So do we.
Join
Got
us.
like fucking Mad Hatter there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
would
it's-
actually, even though like I don't know how you would do it, I think Mad Hatter as like a bit villain would be kind of cool.
Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage. That's how you do it.
As Mad Hatter?
Yes.
You know Mad Hatter's
It
a
all comes back
pedophile,
to
right?
Nick Cage.
And Nick Cage would be good at that.
I was about to be like, whoa!
Alrighty then.
Nick Cage can do literally any role. What are you telling
That's
me?
fair.
Like, that's not a deterrent
I know,
for me
but the
because
way
Nick
you
Cage
s-
could do it.
The way you said it was more like, yeah, and he is. I'm like, no. Don't you dare say about that, my
No,
boy
I'm
Nicky
just
Cage.
saying, like, that wouldn't
Nick
stop
Cage
Nick
slander.
Cage.
We do not slander that.
No, I already professed my love for Nick Cage on this podcast.
Make it official.
Yeah.
How old are you?
Anyhow, I think that it would be cool to see Matt Reeves do more villains. One thing I've seen floating around the internet that I'm just like, is people talking about whether or not they'll do Robin. Which is funny because it's been however long since a live-action Batman film did Robin.
I think that, unlike the Dark Knight trilogy, I think these set of movies could do a Robin better.
yeah,
'cause I
for
feel
sure.
like
well, the
the
question
idea
at
of
that
it-
point is which Robin do you do?
Yeah.
Because it feels like Jason would fit super well in this universe.
I feel like Dick Grayson could also work, but the whole
Yeah.
circus
Yeah.
background may be difficult.
It would
Yeah.
have to be like Tim or Jason.
Yeah.
I
I can't see Damien.
or yeah, sorry, Dick or Jason. I don't think Tim or Damien would work.
Yeah.
I don't think Dick would work.
No?
No, I don't. Unless they still keep going on like this idea of like hopefulness, because that is
Yeah.
the best thing that Batman has ever done is Nightwing.
Right, and then Jason.
And then there's
On
Jason.
the other side of that
And
spectrum.
then there's Jason, who's
the
just
worst
like,
thing that Batman has done.
oh, yeah. And that's the thing where it's just like Joker says, my one greatest failure is like I managed to not screw up that one kid. Where Dick Grayson has been. I think Joker said like, oh man, I wish I could have gotten Dick Grayson. I was about to say I wish I could have gotten Dick, but I was just about to be like, watch out. But I just said it, so clip it. Jeffrey Wright killed it in this movie.
Oh my god, he
Yeah.
was amazing.
I loved him
absolutely.
in this movie.
I loved seeing Jim Gordon not as like a responsible old man, but as
Yes.
like a slightly like unhinged person. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, I am just gonna do the best at my job, and if it just happens to be working with this bat nutcase,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
fine. I also like that he didn't give a shit about what anybody else said. Like, yeah, he's smarter than all of you, and I actually trust the man in the bat suit. I know what I'm saying. Just go with it. Like, I thought he was really cool, and I just love Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah, Jeffrey
When I
Wright.
heard that he was gonna be Gordon, I was like, that's so good. Because Jeffrey Wright's awesome. Joel, do you have anything to say, like, before we wrap this up?
Okay,
Just
cool.
you haven't talked, and I wanted to get
No. Okay. this is tying back to like something that you were saying earlier about the detective work. And okay, sorry, I didn't want to address it then because this was gonna include spoilers. Like, one of the main questions that was like running through my head the entire movie was like, what was that weapon that he used at the beginning?
Oh.
What is that?
Yeah.
And like the entire movie I just kept trying to figure it out, and then like finding out that it was actually like a carpet tool, and it was actually important.
Yeah.
It was a thing.
I
It
thought
wasn't
it was
just
like-
done for the aesthetic.
Yeah.
It wasn't just done because it was convenient. It actually served a purpose, and that was very satisfying.
Yeah, and that's very fucking Riddler.
Yeah, it's very
Yes,
Riddler.
exactly.
Yes.
And that's why I had to say that if I was a villain, I could relate to Riddler. And that's all I'm saying. Anyways.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm not cutting that out.
I relate to the Riddler, Joelle Rapp.
Dang nabbit.
Speaking of Riddler, I wanted to say I loved the fact they did the almost kind of like that poster for that shitty detective movie, The Snowman. The like you could have saved
Oh,
her.
yeah.
I gave you all the clues.
I gave you all the
where
clues.
Batman
Yep.
fucking misses something.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a key point is that Batman fucks up and misses a clue. I love
Yes.
that they included that. That was such a good like bit of holisticness for Batman. He's not an infallible detective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like-
Because detectives aren't.
Right.
Yeah.
Ever.
And I loved that they didn't play him as like knowing.
Yeah.
They played him as making this mistake, and it costs.
Even
There's
though-
like actual permanent impact because
Yeah.
Batman fucked up this. Like,
This isn't like the Grant Morrison, like this is the Bat God Batman, where
Right.
he can literally any situation he knows how to get out of. This is a Batman who's like real in that, like, again, you both pointed out, he fucks up. There's
Yeah.
even a moment where I will say one other negative in the movie, but it's such a nitpicky thing for me. I'm not a big fan of the squirrel suit. I thought that was
Yeah.
kind
I
of lame.
liked
did
it.
mention that.
It was stupid, but it also felt like something that a young 20-year-old who
Batman.
needed who
I
needed
agree.
an aerial transportation.
I know, but like,
What did you want him to do? You wanted him to park the bat plane up on
No,
the
I-
roof
you
first
wanted him to do
and
the
then
Cape Glide?
come in?
I honestly did. I want the Cape Glide.
I love that he fucking rips ass.
Oh yeah, I thought that was
Wizard.
kind of cool.
That was great.
I will say, like, the scene itself is actually really. I like the scene, and I like the context of the scene. I even like the part where, like, he runs up to the top of the building and then he looks down. He's like, like he's like, this is high. Like, I didn't expect this. He was like, okay,
Yeah.
you planned for this. Like, all right.
I just love that he fucking just like
Oh yeah, he's literally like he skips like a stone, just.
and it never comes up again.
Oh no,
That's the
he,
best
just
part.
he literally just walks
I
it
love
off.
that version of Batman is like a millennial of like making a huge body injuring mistake, never speaking about it for the rest of your life.
My name is Batman, and welcome to Jackass. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah, all right. I think we can wrap this up. But if we have like any closing thoughts, I want to hear you guys before I do my big closing statement. Joelle.
This is just kind of going back towards like the tone of the movie, but I thought that it was very interesting that it was very different from other Batman films in that it didn't feel like it was entirely focused on the action, and it felt more like an integrated story. Like it's taking in all of these different pieces, like even the subplot, we talked about this before, felt like it was tied into the plot, like
The Catwoman? Subplot?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
The Catwoman
okay, yeah.
subplot. How that ties in, and then how she is still like this complex character, and her tie into the narrative is not directly because of him.
I find it funny that we all, for closing thoughts, we all touched on a particular character, and my character I was going to talk about, I think the best thing that I got out of this movie was the performance by Robert Pattinson's Batman. I really liked it. It's probably my favorite performance of his. But yeah, I just love the performances in this movie. I love the action in this movie. I can't believe we didn't talk about the Batmobile, because the Batmobile was fucking sick. I love this Batmobile. I'm just going to say that real quick. This is probably my favorite Batmobile because it doesn't need guns to be cool. That's what I love about this Batmobile. Yeah, that's what I'll end it off on, and I thought that whole chase scene was really cool. Sorry, I have to wrap things up. I also want to say on a $1 Million Media aspect that please stay tuned for this next upcoming month of April. During the month of April, we are going to be talking solely about anime. It's going to be Anime April for Million Dollar Media. If you have stayed through this very long episode of Million Dollar Media,
Good
thank
episode,
you.
$1 Million.
So keep listening to Million Dollar Media. Keep listening to other shows on Wave Radio, YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a good day. And bye.